بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Now, before the Battle of Badr, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sent out some of his companions to intercept a caravan that was coming back from Syria to Mecca. And indeed this caravan was one that they had failed to intercept before, meaning they had already attempted to try and capture this caravan. Now the reason why they wanted to capture this caravan was because it carried 50,000 dinars, right? And dinars are little gold coins. So you can imagine the amount of wealth that this caravan was holding. So some of the historians, they say that this was all of the wealth of Mecca was inside of this caravan. So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he thought that this is a small task. One single caravan, we can set out, me and a small amount of my companions. May Allah be pleased with them. So, he set out, thinking it was just a small job, just to lay away the caravan. He set out with 313 of his companions and 2 of his horses. And they had 1 camel between 3 people, meaning they had about 70 camels. And the leader of this caravan from the Mushrikeen was Abu Sufyan. Now this was before Abu Sufyan became a Muslim. He was at the conquest of Mecca that he became a Muslim. But before that, he was one of the staunch enemies of Islam. And he was the one who was leading this caravan at the time. But Abu Sufyan, he had known about this. He had known that the Muslims were trying to capture this caravan. Indeed, they had tried to capture it before. So Abu Sufyan, he sent out a messenger to Mecca to get backup from the Quraysh. So this messenger, he went by camel all the way to Mecca. And when he got there, he threw down himself from the camel. He got a knife and he cut off the ears of the camel and the nose of the camel. But why? To capture the attention of the people at the Kaaba. And he said, Ya Quraysh, O Quraysh, your wealth it is with Abu Sufyan. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is intercepting it. Help them, help them. And the effect of this was immediate. The majority of the people of the Quraysh, they set out, the men. And there was not a single, maybe 1 or 2 people left. It was from Abu Lahab. He sent out a person that had owed a debt to him. SubhanAllah. This just shows, number 1, the cowardice of Abu Lahab. He couldn't even go himself. Some guy that owed debt to him, he sent out him instead. SubhanAllah. But the majority of the Quraysh went. It was 1,300 people from the Mushrikeen that went out to help Abu Sufyan. But Abu Sufyan, he thought it was okay. He had sort of been able to go around Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his troops and take a different route. So he sent them a letter, okay, it's fine, you guys can go back. So about 300 of the Mushrikeen, they returned back to Mecca. But can anyone do the maths? 1,000 are left. 1,000 left, subhanAllah, that are still with Abu Sufyan. So the army of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was informed that there was 1,000 Mushrikeen waiting for them over the border. And that there was going to be a bloody encounter with the Quraysh. It was inescapable. So what did he do? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he set up a small council of him and his companions. And he informed them of the danger. And he told them of the gravity of the situation. And told them, if you wish to turn back, you can turn back. But then Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, he was the first to stand up and say, Ya Rasulullah, I will go with you. And then it was Umar after him, who said, Ya Rasulullah, I will go with you and fight. And then after him was you, does anyone know? He was after Umar that gave his help to Muhammad.
Man.
No, Uthman. Uthman was not there. It was Al-Muwahhid bin Amr. So he got up and said, Ya Rasulullah, go to where Allah directs you to go, for we are with you. We will not say as Banu Israel said to Musa alayhi salam. And in the Quran, what they say to Musa alayhi salam? Go, you and your Lord can fight, and we shall stay here. As in, the Yahud, they said to Musa alayhi salam, you and Allah can go fight, we'll stay here. The cowardice of the Yahud. Rather, we shall say, go, you and your Lord, and fight, and we will fight along you. Wallahi, if you take us to Badr al-Ghimma, we will still fight resolutely with you against the defenders until you gained it. Now Badr al-Ghimma was a massive place, right? Previous nations had failed to conquer it. So this was their resolve to help Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he reassured Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Nabi, sufficient for you is Allah and whoever followed you of the believers. So before they proceeded, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he still wanted to ask some of the people, right? There were the Muhajirun and the Ansar, meaning the battle happened after the Hijrah. Some of the Ansar he had not asked. So he asked the Ansar, he wished them to speak. So Sa'id bin Mu'adh, he sat up and he said, Ya Rasulullah, Wallahi, I feel as if you want us, the Ansar, to speak. So Muhammad said, yes, I want you to speak. So Sa'ad said, Ya Rasulullah, we believe in you and we bear witness to what you have vouched to us, and we declare in unequivocal terms to you obedience and sacrifice. We will obey you most willingly in whatever you command us. And Wallahi, who has sent you with the truth? If you were to ask us to plunge into the sea, we will do that most readily, and not a man of us will stay behind. We do not grudge the idea of encounter with the enemy. We are experienced in war and we are trustworthy in combat. We hope that Allah will show through you our hands these deeds of valor, which will please your eyes. Kindly lead us to the battlefield. Bismillah. And by the way, they thought this was a small adventure. They had not brought along many weapons. They had only brought along 2 horses and 70 camels. And yet this was their determination to help Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, impressed by this, he said, advance and be of cheer, my companions, for Allah has promised me one of 2 things. We'll talk about what these 2 things are later on. And Wallahi, it is as if now I saw the enemy lying prostrate, meaning on the floor, defeated. And the night before the battle of Badr came along, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sat along in prostration and sujood all night. And then in the morning the battle commenced. And alhamdulillah, the Muslims, they were on top. We were outnumbered, how many? For one Muslim, how many mushrikeen were they? 1 to 3. We were outnumbered 1 to 3. And the Muslims, they fought the mushrikeen harder and harder. But there came a point, my brothers, where there 1,000 men were closing in on the Muslims, meaning 313 in number. And the battle, it grew too hot, and the engagement too fierce. So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he retreated back to the camp so he can make supplication to Allah. And he said, Ya Allah, I beseech you to fulfill your promise, Ya Allah. If this band of believers are destroyed, you will not be worshipped upon the earth. And then he fell down into sujood for so long that Abu Bakr, he picked Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam up and he put the cloak back onto him. And he said, Ya Nabi Allah, you have cried out enough to your Lord. We will surely fulfill what He has promised you. And the response from Allah was immediate, my brothers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent down 1,000 angels, and then 3,000 angels, and then 5,000 angels, and alongside with them was the trustworthy spirit, who? Jibreel alayhi salam. And Jibreel alayhi salam, he commanded Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, take a fistful of dust and throw it into the enemy. And when Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he got this dust and he threw it into the enemy, what happened, my brothers? A massive sandstorm, a miracle of Allah, went towards them, and they were blinded by the piercing sand that went into their eyes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to them, after they had won the battle, and already had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given you victory at the battle of Badr, whilst you were weak, meaning few in number, then fear Allah, perhaps you will be grateful. Remember when you said to the believers, O Muhammad, is it not sufficient for you that your Lord should reinforce you with 3,000 angels sent down? Yes, if you remain patient and conscious of Allah, and the enemy come upon you attacking in rage, your Lord will reinforce you with 5,000 angels having marks of distinction. And Allah made it not except as a sign of good tidings for you, and to reassure your hearts thereby. And victory is not except from Allah, the exalted, the might, the wise, that He may cut down a section of the disbelievers or suppress them so they may turn back disappointed. Now during this battle, there is some lesson that we can learn, that we as Muslims can today extract, even though there will never be a battle of Badr again. There will never be such a victory for the Muslims. This was our turning point for the Muslims after the Hijrah. This is the point where the Muslims, we start to become triumphant amongst the mushrikeen. The first is that we all start out with optimism and good expectations. Just as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he started out with good expectations and good optimism towards the caravan. It's a small caravan, my companions. We shall capture it easily with 313 men. Whatever it may be in life, a test, a journey, a challenge, we always start out with optimism. And then perhaps we are hit later on with the reality of the situation, are we not? Right? Which can crush our optimism. We're like a small can of soda, right? After you drink it, we have that thin aluminum can left, and you crush it with your bare hands, can't you? That's our optimism when we are faced with the reality of a situation. But what does one do in that situation? Just as Muhammad ﷺ did, right? The seerah is an example for us, our brothers. What did he do? He set up a council and informed his companions of the reality and set straight their expectations. Similarly, we must also align our expectations accordingly. To know of the odds against you will better prepare you mentally for the challenges that come ahead. After this, there comes waves of good and waves of bad. But throughout these waves, we see a common factor with the boat of Muslims that ride upon these waves. Right? Perseverance. Perseverance is not something that which you can buy or something which you can acquire easily. But rather it is sheer drive and willpower that one can override barriers with that are merely physical. Just as how victory in battle does not depend on large numbers or ample weapons or many horses, victory in anything else does not necessarily require the correct equipment or even opportunity. Rather, both depend on spirit and morale. The mushrikeen at the time, they were people who were neck deep in honor and valor and culture. The mushrik army, may Allah never grant them any mercy. They spent 3 days prior to the battle doing what? Do you think they were preparing harshly with their swords? Do you think they were doing that? The mushrikeen were full of pride? No. What they were doing? They were drinking wine. They were listening to songs sung by naked slave girls, subhanallah, and lighting fires, just to show the rest of the Arabs that we are this strong, that we do not need any sort of practice before battle. They used to do these things out of great ego, subhanallah. But compare that to the Muslims at the time. What were they doing? They were in worship and supplication. They were asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for victory. And Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he fell into sujood for so long that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu had to pick him up. This shows that victory is only from Allah. Success is only from Allah. And whatever happens is His will. The Muslims were outnumbered 3-1. And yet they did not desert battle, nor did they become scared. But they showed their enemies faces of strength and courage. But there's one more thing I want to point out in this. The declaration of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to his companions, where he said, advance and be of cheer, for Allah has promised me one of two. And what are these two things, brothers? The first is victory, we know that. But what's the second thing that they were advancing towards? Does anyone know? They're either going to win or they're going to? Be martyred. He said that. Alhamdulillah. The wish of Allah. They are going to be martyred. But you're thinking, one is victory and one is death. How can death be a good thing? This is what you call being pleased with Allah's qadr. Now you are happy with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you. So Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, advance and be a cheer, for Allah has promised me one of two. Martyrdom is still a great thing. Either they win and they are granted the spoils of war, 500 dirhams. Or they lose, right? And they are granted Jannah and martyrdom, and they can smell the fragrance of Jannah. This is being pleased and happy with the qadr of Allah, whatever He wishes for you. Some of the wise people of the past, the Salaf Salih, they said what? Verily Allah has some slaves who meet catastrophes with joy. They are the ones whose hearts are pure from the dunya, meaning they are free from whatever desires are from the dunya. And Umar bin Khattab, he is reported to have said that I do not care about which state I wake up in. If it is in accordance with what I love, or in accordance to what I hate. Why is this? Why does he not care if he wakes up in what he loves or what he hates? Because I do not know if goodness lies in what I love or what I hate. Right? The human nafs, the soul, it can be swayed one way or another. Right? Just like a feather is swayed in the wind by his desires. If this is good or bad for him, he does not know if this is within true objective morality, the morality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may He keep us happy with Him. In joy and in sorrow, in wealth and in poverty, and in health and in success. For whatever He wishes for us is beneficial, even if we cannot perceive that benefit. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا. Everyone stay here so we can get the game sorted. بارك الله فيك.